Hello everyone, welcome back to Platinum Gaming. Today I want to talk about the backlog, something most of us in the gaming world are familiar with. For those that don't know, the backlog is basically your personal pile of games you've bought, downloaded, or started but never finished. Maybe you picked them up on sale, grabbed them through a subscription, or just got distracted by the next big release. Over time, that list grows, and so does the pressure to clear it. It's easy for a backlog to go from something exciting to something that weighs you down, and that's what I want to unpack today. If that sounds interesting, please consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. Alright, let's get started. I've been there too. Too many games, not enough time. I'd start one game, then another, until I had 3 different save files across several games, each stuck somewhere in the tutorial or opening hours. I'd hop from title to title, chasing some sense of momentum, but never really feeling satisfied. In the end, all I had was a cluttered home screen and a vague sense of annoyance that I wasn't finishing anything. But over time, I made a few simple changes that completely transformed how I approach my backlog. I want to share those changes with you today, not as some checklist or productivity system, but as a way to actually enjoy your backlog again. Because this process should be fun above all else. After work, school, or just life, gaming should feel like a joy and not another obligation. But somewhere along the way, having a backlog turned into another stress and not something to look forward to. We live in a time when games are more affordable and more accessible than ever. With sales, bundles, and subscriptions, our libraries are constantly expanding. And yet, that abundance can leave us frozen. Analysis paralysis, guilt, fatigue. We spend more time watching reviews and YouTube playthroughs than actually playing what we own. This video is about stepping back from that pressure. It's about finding joy, presence, and purpose in the way you play. Before getting into the ideas that ultimately helped me enjoy my backlog more, I want to briefly talk about some of the systems I experimented with along the way, because they helped shape the philosophy I have today. Over the years, I tried a variety of approaches with mixed success. While not everything worked, I did pick up some great habits that made going through my backlog much more enjoyable. Starting with a method a lot of us have probably tried, keeping a spreadsheet with timelines and estimated hours for each game. Honestly, this wasn't a bad idea. It helped me stay organized and gave me a sense of which games to tackle next based on how much time I had. I also experimented with setting deadlines for finishing certain games or capping how many hours I would spend on one. That pushed me to sample more titles and avoid getting sucked into a grindy post-game or chasing a platinum I didn't actually care about. There were also times when I only allowed myself to play 1 or 2 games at a time, following a strict order. That structure helped me commit, and finishing games that way felt really satisfying. It created some great experiences because I was fully present with what I was playing instead of constantly jumping around. However, although some good came out of these systems, they mainly backfired and kept me from truly enjoying games like Watch Dogs 2, Metro Exodus, and Ghost of Tsushima. These are games that I really enjoyed, but I'm sure these systems spoiled somewhat. Keeping a spreadsheet started to put pressure on the games themselves. Suddenly, a game had to be worth its estimated 25-hour runtime. If I did not finish it fast enough, I felt like I was wasting time. Deadlines, while motivating at times, often led to me rushing through sections or dreading the final hours of a game that overstayed its welcome. And when I did end up loving something and playing beyond my planned time, I'd feel guilty and felt like I was falling behind on the rest of my list. The strict one game at a time method would also backfire. If the game I committed to wasn't really fun, I'd feel stuck. I'd force myself to keep going just to maintain the system, and that's when fun starts to fade. These strategies work in the sense that they helped me finish games, but at their worst, they turned gaming into a chore. Instead of feeling excited to play, I'd feel like I was checking off boxes, and my playtime had to accomplish something every time. And I think this gets even worse considering that I've definitely fallen into the trap of treating even my free time like something I need to optimize. That mindset where everything, even leisure, has to be productive would make my gaming time stressful. It becomes less about joy and more about completing. And the more I leaned into that mindset, the less I actually enjoyed the games themselves. Nonetheless, I was able to break the loop where the systems and the optimization mindset fed into each other. The way I did that was by first taking a look at my mindset when it comes to gaming. Gaming could still be about completing my backlog, but only if it brings fun along the way. Only if I am always playing what resonates, not chasing platinums, not playing games just because they are short, and not being strict about which game I play or in what order. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, it would be that the games I play should be fun first. That is followed by quality, and then by opportunity cost. My gaming can have a sense of direction, but not a fixed path. This has led me to an approach that is curiosity-driven. Recent examples include games like the South Park games, Humanity, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and Rage 2. These were not necessarily at the top of my backlog, or even critically acclaimed for that matter, but they caught my eye, felt right, were fun, and I ended up having an amazing time with them. Likewise, I have revisited games like the original Borderlands, The Last of Us Part 1, and Assassin's Creed Mirage. These were not priorities either, but they turned out to be great experiences that rewarded me for following my interest. Most importantly, this mindset allowed me to pause games that I was not having a good time with. In the past, I would have pushed through them, leading to boredom and spoiling the experience. Games like Teardown, Days Gone, and Expeditions are good games, but pausing them to pursue others I am enjoying more has been very rewarding. Lastly, if I am not excited to play something, even after 6 or 10 hours invested, I do not force it. I feel like this change in approach has helped me to not only make better progress through my backlog, but also to enjoy the process a lot more. I actually went back to Days Gone about a year after pausing it and had a good experience, instead of forcing it the year prior. Okay, so now that I've explained the different ways I've approached my backlog over the years, how do I actually manage it today in a way that feels enjoyable? Over time, I've settled into a simple rhythm that keeps things light, flexible, and most importantly, fun. I no longer follow strict plans or rigid systems. Instead, I treat my backlog more like a living list that changes, depending on my interests, energy, and what's going on in life. One thing that helps a lot is that I don't look at my entire backlog when deciding what to play. Out of the roughly 150 games in my backlog, I keep a smaller folder with about 60 games that I'm very interested in playing in the near future. This helps narrow things down, so I'm not overwhelmed by choice every time I want to start something new. If I were recommending this approach to someone else, I'd actually suggest going even smaller. Taking the time to identify the top 10 or 15 games you're most excited about, and only choosing from that list makes the process of picking what to play much easier. It adds just enough structure to avoid decision fatigue while still keeping things flexible. From that smaller pool, I usually keep a rough rotation of games in progress. I don't follow a strict schedule, but I generally try to have 3 types of games going at once. 1 main game, 1 chill or shorter experience, and 1 quick hit game that I can jump into for a short session. This structure keeps things focused without making me feel stuck playing just one thing. For example, my main game right now is Dredge. It's the game I'm really enjoying and trying to finish before moving on to something else. After putting about 10 hours into it, I started pairing it with the Doom Eternal DLC. Whenever I need a break from Dredge, Doom is a great option. I play until I get my fill and then jump back into Dredge, and that back and forth keeps both games feeling fresh. Then there's my quick hit game. By that, I mean something I know I'll enjoy, that's easy to pick up, and that still feels satisfying even if I only have 20 minutes to play. Right now, that game is Helldivers 2. When I want a short session or just need a change of pace, doing the daily challenge or an operation is always a good time. Just a couple of weeks ago, my rotation looked completely different. I was playing God of War 3, Thank Goodness You're Here, and Helldivers 2. And having rotations like this lets me stay focused on a few games at a time while still trying new ones, and most importantly, keeping things fun. I usually end up rotating into a completely fresh set of games every month or so, and slowly but surely I've started to see my backlog actually shrink. In addition, I give certain months a theme based on my mood or the season. For example, I might go for cozy games like Minecraft or a Lego title in the winter, or horror games like Ghostwire Tokyo or A Plague's Tale in October. Other times, I revisit older titles I never got around to, like Alan Wake or Matterfall. This is a great way to make sure that even with a backlog in progress rotation, I stay open to trying new games while naturally dropping ones that no longer justify the time or mood of the new season. Even more importantly, I leave space in my rotation for surprise drops, multiplayer sessions, or anything I suddenly feel like playing. This includes VR titles, new additions from the PlayStation Plus catalog, and games I play with friends. I don't try to squeeze everything in at once, but I do swap out my side games as needed, making sure I always have a main game while still leaving room to experiment. Once the spontaneous pick is finished, or no longer active, I usually circle back to whichever side game I was playing before and see it through. Platinum trophies are also part of my rhythm, but they are not the goal. I usually only go for the platinum when I really like a game and want to experience everything it has to offer. I treat them like a reward for loving the experience and not as something I have to check off. Sometimes the platinum journey itself is a rewarding incentive to keep playing, and I recommend you give it a try. Also, and I think this is really important, I do not ignore 7 out of 10 games. Some of those have turned out to be personal favorites. Sometimes what makes a game a 10 out of 10 isn't its polish or reputation, but how well it connects with your curiosity or interests. On the other hand, even if a game is highly rated, it is perfectly fine to leave it behind if you are not having a fun time. Fun is subjective, and forcing yourself to keep playing something just because it is well reviewed usually leads to burnout. A good example for me is The Last of Us Part 2. It is a beautiful and atmospheric game, but the pacing and gameplay loop were really not working for me at the time. I ended up dropping it and playing Balatro instead, which was an insanely fun decision. The beauty of this approach is that you can always come back. In fact, The Last of Us Part 2 is still on my list, and I'll probably come back to it this fall with different expectations. Another rule that has really helped me is giving every game 2 to 6 mandatory hours, depending on the genre. If I'm not enjoying it by then, I either pause it or drop it, and I think this is one of the best ways to manage a backlog. Sometimes what clutters the list is not knowing whether you are truly interested in a game or just holding on to it because it's there. Deciding with confidence to move on creates space, and more importantly, it removes the guilt that often comes from not finishing a game. A great example for me was God of War Ragnarok. I really was not feeling it and considered dropping it several times, but pushing through those first couple of hours led to an amazing experience. Likewise, dropping Killzone Shadowfall instead of grinding it out was also a great choice for me. I got a good taste of it, and it felt great to remove it from my backlog. At the same time, I've also learned that it's okay to feel a little lukewarm about a game and still finish it. Sometimes the satisfaction of completing a game is worth it, especially when there are only a few hours left and the game isn't something that feels downright terrible. A good example for me is Far Cry 6. I felt like it was a wasted opportunity and was really tempted to drop it. But it still had its fun moments, and seeing it through ended up being a satisfying experience. Another habit I developed lately is every time I finish a game, I revisit my backlog and decide what I want to play next. This is where not following a strict order becomes really important. Sometimes the game I thought I would play next ends up being the one, but other times, when the moment actually comes, I pick the game that best fits my mood. That flexibility has made the whole process much more enjoyable. Being intentional about how I spend my free time has also been really important. As an adult, time naturally becomes more limited, and everyone's responsibilities look different. For me personally, one way I've been able to make room for gaming is by being mindful about how I use my downtime. Instead of automatically scrolling or consuming other media, I often choose to spend that time playing a game instead. On a weekly level, somewhere around 6 to 9 hours tends to be the sweet spot for me. It's enough time to actually immerse myself in a game and make meaningful progress without feeling like I'm neglecting other responsibilities. Another thing I've learned is that not every gaming session is going to feel great. Sometimes you're relearning mechanics, getting stuck on a section, or just not quite in the flow yet. In those moments, I like having a small backup game ready to go. For me, that's usually 10 or 15 minutes of Clash Royale on my phone. It's quick, familiar, and low commitment, which makes it a nice reset if my session didn't quite land the way I hoped. Lastly, I mostly stick to genres I know I enjoy, but I also make room to explore. Watching a short review or some gameplay gives me a feel for whether something is worth trying. The key is to use that information as a starting point, not a verdict. I make it a point to form my own opinion. Alternating genres keeps things fresh and helps me find a good balance between comfort and discovery. So, if your backlog is bringing more dread than fun, I recommend taking a closer look at your approach and defining a gaming philosophy that leads you to systems that make the hobby enjoyable again. That kind of reflection is what has allowed me to find a lot of joy and satisfaction in going through my backlog. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. It means a lot, and I truly hope you found something helpful or meaningful in what I shared. If you have your own backlog tips, I would love to hear about them. Please like the video, subscribe if you have not already, and share your own backlog in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.